Hey guys, David here with MainDeck Masters. We're here with EJ here. We're looking at his deck profile for his green aggro deck that he played today. He got 11th.
Yes. Not just green aggro, bug aggro.
Let's get into it, man.
A little bit of fun backstory. At Worlds earlier this year, I brought bugs. I have a favorite card that we'll get to in this, and I just wanted to play it on the biggest stage. And I scrubbed out like you wouldn't believe, but I had a lot of fun. And I worked with some people at Bulldog over in the Indiana area. And we made something really good. We made something truly great. And
hell yeah.
Greatness starts very simple with...
Simple greatness.
We start with the Ant-Man soldiers. The Bulldog crew, a lot of them are picking Fire Ant-Man instead. They're a 1-drop with no reduction. But I like having the base 3K. It often helps if you're trying to push through some little stuff. But it's a really good card. I might go to the fire eventually because sometimes you want things to die. We'll get to that later. After that, we have a trio of Leaf Wolf. What is there to say about Leaf Wolf? It has been not quite a staple, but like back in 2019 when Battle Spirits was beginning the first time, this was the poster card for green, and it was that for a reason. Swift for effectively one at any given time lets you push pressure like very little else in the game, with the exception of one other card, which once again we'll get to later. After that, we get to Ant-Man. As I said, Ant-Man is a sacrificial pawn. There are times you want things to die in this deck. You need it. Ant-Man is the ultimate sacrificial pawn. If it's destroyed by your opponent, either defensively or offensively, you gain a core. Core ramp is super important. It's a green deck. Why wouldn't it be? After that, we get to what I think is sauce, but it's absolutely not sauce. Everyone's on this. Ava 8 Gamma Armament Container. This card is cracked. It is Worker Ant-Man, everyone's best friend, but Hydra can't kill it, Nova can't kill it, Era can't kill it. So either you're swinging with it early, getting pressure, gaining cores on something like Ant-Man, and then when you inevitably get Era Nova'd or some other sort of board wipe, Floodstream is the exception. But it stays on field and it can block, or if you have it, it stays on as reduction, which is incredibly important in this deck.
AT field is insane. The EVA set just gave us that.
This is the best use of AT field, in my opinion, in the entire game. After that, we have his classic buddy, 3 copies of Worker Ant-Man. What is there to say about Worker Ant-Man? It's been the green staple since set 2. This deck, spoilers, runs a ton of Swift, so the ability to put, rather than Ava 8, which puts it on another spirit, Worker Ant-Man puts it in your reserve, which is many times better, but it has no defensive options. So the choice was to make it a 3, and Armament Container is a 4. Maybe in the future I'll mess with those ratios. Next we come to one of our other poster boys, which is the inimicable Ant-Man General. I think Ant-Man General has been forgotten a lot, but from reduction purposes, it is double symbol. You are making another body. It is very worth playing. I run it at 4 because having those tokens ends up being super important for our top end. Yep. Next, we are coming to one of my 2 favorite cards from set 4, and kind of one of your win conditions, which is Wave Rider Jaredai. Wave Rider is just like Leaf Wolf in that it is a crazy Swift card. It costs 1 more, but also has 1 more reduction, which means on a reasonable board, it cuts down to 1 as well. And just the ability, I was playing in round 5, I had an excellent Nova player, excellent Era player, and thanks to Jaredai, 2 games in a row, I 2-0'd him after the Nova reset by using him and other Flash Spirits to knock him down 5 life in 1 turn. That is the kind of capability that this deck has, and it has it pretty consistently, unless you're really unlucky, like I got in round 6. After that is Emerald Pincer, another one of my faves. Just the ability to needle shot an opponent on summon is crazy when they only have 1 guy up and they're depending on having a blocker or something that they can kill with a block to trigger, say, Beldegor. Something like that. Emerald Pincer is great. It's just a great card. You play it only when you're going for the win generally,
Yeah.
but it's enough. It's enough, and I don't see a version of this deck that doesn't play it, frankly.
Yeah, that card's so good.
Next is our friend from Tournament Pack 2, Scope Owl.
Scoops!
Scope Owl is... Everyone knows Scope Owl. Scope Owl is basically a staple at this point. We run it at 3 instead of 4 for one reason. It is not a bug. And while that sounds like my bias, and it is undoubtedly my bias, bugs are really important in this deck for what you do in the end. And so, while it's super useful, while I play it, it won me the game multiple times just from swifting in to kill. It is a 3F.
Yeah,
So,
it makes sense.
Right now we are at 10 Swift Spirits. We rank that up to 14 with a card that I saw at Worlds and decided was made for me, Gale Ninja Antshadow.
This card's great.
What is there to say about Gale Ninja Antshadow? It does everything. It is a reasonably costed Swift Spirit with a huge body. 6K for 2 cores is, in green, inordinately big. It is probably the biggest body for its cost in green, when you think about it.
Yeah, I think it is.
And it comes out as an extra body. You get a standing Ant-Man token. Most Ant-Man tokens tend to come in suspended because Ant-Man tokens do not have downsides. That is a huge thing to note in token theory. Blue tokens are only on expensive bodies and tend to either blow up nexuses to be created, and white mecha tokens are only available on destruction effects, and except in one case, Gunsmith Mine, when you are behind your opponent in every way on board. Ant-Man tokens don't do that. You play Ant-Man tokens like sneezing. And so, to balance that, they tend to come in unsuspended. This is the exception. It is one of the few X-Rares in the deck. This is a very X-Rare light deck. This is the only X-Rare, in fact, off the top of my head. And it has earned its place. I can't see a version of the deck that you don't run at least 3 of these, maybe 4. Usually 4. I chose 4. There was a version of this deck that actually ran Great Armor Tree Herrick Dynus. At 1, I decided
everything Swift is pretty good.
I decided I wanted the consistency of this body. It never steered me wrong whenever I found it. I just found it less than I wanted to. So yeah, why wouldn't I put it at 4? And finally, we get to what I consider the crown jewel of the deck, my favorite card in Battle Spirits, Archduke Kingtaurus at 4. Now, an 8 cost is a lot. Even in this deck, 8 cost is a lot.
Isn't this green aggro?
It is, but the thing that you have to consider is that this is not an 8 cost at max reduction. This is a 1 cost, because when you play Archduke Kingtaurus, it selects 3 spirits that are carapites, great beetles, or insectoids, including itself, and puts a core from the reserve onto all of them. So if you pay 4, you ramp 3, you have only paid 1. It's ridiculous. And every time it attacks, it makes a standing Ant-Man token. It is, in my opinion, before set 5 comes out, the most important token card that exists, even more than Antshadow, and Antshadow's bonkers. I didn't even mention that Antshadow ramps every single token you play.
Yeah, he does.
But Kingtaurus is the most stable token generator in the game. Every time it attacks, it makes a token. At 6K, it's usually big enough to get through early level stuff. It struggles a little bit against, like, well, Nova. But honestly, at that point, even if you get 1 swing in, it's a block, it's an extra body, effectively a double symbol, twice as much time to do Swift, totally worth it. Never leave home without it.
Right.
If I can get 1 person to be willing to try Archduke Kingtaurus more, I'll be happy. Now
I might try when I go.
Now we get into the magics, all of which are 4 copies in the main deck. We start with the Ant Strike Back. What is there to say? This is one of those absolutely bonkers.
This card's free real estate the card.
It is. It genuinely is. Anytime any of your bodies die, make 2 bodies. On an empty board, pay 1. Make 2 bodies. It is just as good to play as a spell as it is as a burst. But as a burst, when you get Nova cleared, when you get Era cleared, they clear your whole board. You say, cool. And strike back. I've got 3 bodies. They're not in a position to block because they come in suspended, but if they don't have Nova to burn them down again, or if you do it after the Nova attack, you just have 2 more bodies to swing for game next turn. So you've put your opponent off balance.
It's also 2 reduction.
Yes. This is not just aggro, it is tempo aggro. And tempo aggro means that when the tide turns around, you are swinging for game every time, no matter what amount of life they are on. And it happened. Even in the rounds that I lost, I always took at least one game because the momentum would shift back to me, and no matter where they were, even if they had Nova'd back to 5, push for damage and you kill them.
Yep.
They don't have enough. And then we get another thing that helps with that, which is 4 copies of Thorn Prison. Probably the most played green card in the game.
Yeah.
Thorn Prison is just cool. I am making 2 of your cards unable to block for the turn effectively. I tap them down, or if it's on their turn, tap them down while they're attacking, and you run back 2 attacks. There is very rarely a situation where you don't want to have at least 1 Thorn Prison in your hand. I unfortunately did brick on way too many in my final game, but it hasn't discouraged me at all. I wouldn't change the ratios for this.
No, I think 4 is correct.
Yes.
I think any less than 4 is wrong.
A big ongoing issue that has to be reckoned with is this deck doesn't have a ton of draw.
Yeah.
Drawing is your downside, and for that we are running the last card in the deck, Starblast Draw. We're in Era format.
Yeah, we are. Free real estate
Andromeda will proc Starblast Draw. Era proc Starblast Draw. Nova proc Starblast Draw. Anything in purple. Serpent I still consider to be a very real deck. It made a light showing this time, but I still consider it to be a real deck.
It is.
Everything in purple procs this card.
Not in purple serpents.
Purple Oribosha.
That's about it.
Beldegor.
Okay.
Those are your early plays. Blacklands.
Blacklands, okay.
If you're yeah, which one?
King Snake.
King Snake Oribosha.
Let's go.
So yeah, that's a huge chunk of stuff that even if you're going into general purple aggro, like Cavalier draws a card on play. Starblast, you draw 2. You've
Some
ramped
purple aggro decks are playing Evo 01 attack, which
That's
on
true.
summon draws a card.
I had a wonderful game against an excellent Ava player, though not as good as the man who's holding the camera right now. And he would play Ava 1 attack, and I'd Starblast for 4 because you're generating enough cores that you can actually pay the full cost. And 4 cards means that you have enough to win the game basically on any moment.
I can't tell you how many times I had an Ava 01 attack in my hand, and my opponent has a burst set, and I'm like, I'm not playing this card.
So, choose your token of preference.
That one.
I like the lenticular ones. You'll notice something very important has been missing from this deck, though, and that is Absolute Ice Shield. This is a deck that runs too hot to run Ice Shield, but I run 4 on the side for when I am getting ground down with Nova, with Era. I didn't use it a single time all Pro Fest, and I think I did pretty well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Absolute Ice Shield is something to consider, but in a deck this fast, you don't need it in most games. It's like white aggro. How many white aggro players are running Ice Shield?
Maybe 2 in the side.
This is better white aggro in my opinion. White aggro comes out faster with better reduction, but you have a stronger actual game, and you don't have to commit because of the Swift board. When your opponent thinks that they've got you, you just go 1, 2, 3, and you win. Next is a bit of spicy tech that actually I think I'm cutting in future versions, or at least reducing to 2, which is Lightning Arrow.
All right.
Do you know what the worst matchup for this deck is? Say it with me, folks. White Control. Frost Tiger Heavy Armor is not something this deck can beat. It isn't.
Correct.
And so, when I'm confronted with Heavy Armor that's going to bottom deck my tokens, bottom deck most of my guys, Lightning Arrow. It doesn't matter if you have suppression. Even if they're tapped and they go, cool, suppression, I go, cool, Lightning Arrow. Push for game. They've wasted resources, and I've got my damage. White does not have a way to get back life. It's super important. Not really.
Oh, they had Aegis.
I don't consider it. Show me the white control player currently playing Aegis.
Because you can ascend off of it with armor.
Oh, I'm aware. But also, there's so much Nexus removal in white control. We're going to get a whole tangent here. There's so much Nexus removal in the format right now that Nauman City, which I consider to be a core piece of white control,
it
is a liability. because you will
Forest of Steel Leaves.
Forest of Steel Leaves. Cool. Do you have the burst always? Because if you don't have a burst set, Forest of Steel Leaves doesn't protect anything.
I mean, if you have a set Star Blast, are you really gonna let white control activate his burst Star Blast draw? Is it gonna sit there forever? Are you gonna test it? Oh, and it's not a burst Star Blast draw.
I'll test it. I'm crazy. I literally.
I mean, that's fair, but like that's like the thing though. Are you gonna let white control draw potentially 2 to 4 cards?
Yes, because they won't survive to the next turn. Even if you Unstoppable Avalanche with me. I was playing a pretty good white aggro player round 2, and they love their bounce spells, including defensive bounce spells, which kind of threw me.
Bounce spells have lost value.
I disagree. I think bouncing an Ascend Spirit is the scariest thing you can do.
I agree.
I think Valkyrie specifically has lost utility. But
Correct.
Unstoppable Avalanche is better than it's ever been.
Yeah, I have been saying since the card came out, I think Avalanche in a white deck should be possibly considered in the main board at 2.
I think
And
that,
is
that is what
always in
this-
the side.
That's what this white aggro player was doing. But the funniest thing in the world is, cool, you bounced the guy that was attacking, which was Gale Ninja Antshadow.
I hate that.
Back we go.
Yep. Yeah.
Another body.
Even
Thank
with that
you.
being said, you
Speaking of white, you'll ask why I went on a tangent about white, and that's because for our final card, we are dipping into their stuff as well with Valkyrie Callista. Valkyrie Callista is just a great card. It's expensive, but remember, you're ramping a ton.
Yep.
And what matters is they can't Nova it. They can't block it with Era or Nova. They can't block it with anything in Era or Nova or Hydra, and they die.
You know, they can't block with Frost Tiger either.
Correct. I kind of wish I'd gone against more white control this tournament.
Was there a white control player?
Not that I saw.
I think there was a white-blue player.
There was one, but I didn't see. What we had, quick preview. I'm sure MainDeck Masters will do a lovely breakdown of how the tournament went, but someone was playing red-blue mandala mill control and was doing pretty good with it. That threw me for a loop.
That's wild.
And just you see
I
the
need that
mandala,
person's list.
mill 24, swing, pitch Black Golem to mill another 6. You've milled 30 cards. And Unchained Arena is one of the biggest weaknesses of this deck. It's the biggest weakness of any aggro deck. If you are running blue and you have enough to play it, Unchained Arena says,
Yep, it says you can tech.
this will go up after the Pro Fest, so I feel comfortable doing a little bit of a spoiler for the man who went EXO in Swiss, a man by the name of Kieran, who is on an excellent Hydra deck and is running at least 2 Unchained Arenas. And that's how he got through white aggro, which was his final match.
Yep.
Honestly, I don't know that I'll be able to get in another tournament anytime soon because the Pro Tour is so exclusive for whose invitations are going to Worlds. Only top 8. But if I can find a way to make it to Pro Tour 2, and I have all of the fun new white-green tech that is coming out in set 5 to mess with, maybe some other stuff, you will see this deck soon, and you will see it when you don't want to.
Hell yeah.
Thanks again for MainDeck Masters for letting me show off this list. Y'all are some excellent people, and I hope to jam some games with you online. I hope to participate in Battlegrounds and all of those fun fan-run tournaments that are happening.
Absolutely. We have our set 5 tourney at the end of the month.
Love
We
to
haven't made
hear
the
it.
announcement yet, but it will be up by the time this goes up.
Wonderful. So, yeah, give
August
them a look.
31st, baby.
Heck yeah. And thank you again.
Absolutely, man.
Please enjoy Battle Spirits. I consider this to be the best game currently on the market. And it makes me happy to play it. Even when I have a rough match, I come away smiling.
Absolutely.
If you haven't given the game a chance and for some reason you're on a MainDeck Masters video about the Battle Spirits Saga Pro Tour, give it a shot.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man.
Take care.
Take care.